This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening and welcome to the Wellness Collective podcast. This evening, we are speaking with the wonderful Sarita Ford, who is a licensed clinical social worker based in Maryland. She currently practices as a school social worker in Baltimore County, Maryland, and she is the amazing owner of her own private practice. And she is also an expert in self care and wellness practices. And you will also find out about Sarita Ford in the upcoming book anthology known as It Takes a Village, which is set to release in March of this year. So, welcome and thank you for joining us, Sarita.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes. All right. So, a lot of people, they may see you now in your private practice or as a licensed clinical social worker, but tell me about the early stages in your career and like what really sparked that interest for you with the social work career field.
So I like to say that I didn't choose social work, but the social work life chose me. So in
Okay.
undergrad, I switched my major several times. So I was one of those students that wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. So I switched my major from occupational therapy, physical therapy. I did forensics at one point. And then at some point, I had to take like an abnormal psychology course. And I was intrigued by the information that I was learning and I wanted to know more. So I spoke with my advisor and she kind of recommended me to go into counseling if I was interested. And I think she actually specified psychology, but I found that social work was actually the track that I wanted to go and be on because of all the different things that you can learn in social work, from the theoretical frameworks to child welfare to all the just different options that was available for that course. So I decided, you know what, social work would be my major. And I have a passion for working with youth. So I have experience in foster care. I also have experience working in behavioral health clinics, residential, as well as psychiatric rehabilitation programs. And then at some point in my career, I decided that I wanted to explore private practice because of the need that I saw that was there. So, because of the years of experience I have, it has allowed me to work in quite a few different areas of social work.
Okay, great, amazing. So, a lot of people are familiar with micro, meso, and macro levels in social work.
Mhm.
But what actually made you, what motivated you to go into the clinical side of social work versus, the community building and the program evaluation side and grant writing and things of that nature?
To me, it is something about building a trusting relationship with your client. And oftentimes, when clients are exploring therapy, it usually is because of some underlying issues or a traumatic event that has taken place. And when I think about the therapeutic relationship of someone actually trusting an individual with their secrets, with some of the things that they experience, it makes me honored to be in session with every client that I've ever seen, because it allows me to help them process and heal and work through the things that are impacting them. So when I think about that clinical piece, which was what I majored in, clinical mental health at University of Maryland, I think about all the opportunities where I'll get a chance to support the clients that I'm able to see and also help them through their healing process.
Amazing. So I know private practice seems to be booming within the counseling and social work profession, but a lot of people don't realize like that you're actually like a entrepreneur. So you're dealing with not just the clinical piece of helping others, but you're dealing with marketing, brand awareness, and things of that nature. So can you tell me about the early startup phases within owning your own private practice?
Yes. So it requires a lot of preparation. And I don't think it's talked about enough in grad school.
Yes.
So at University of Maryland, there weren't any courses, not even electives that I can think of, where it focused on being a social work entrepreneur or even owning your business. So because of that, once I graduated, it took me some years of preparation to figure out, okay, how can I be self-employed? How can I go into private practice and be successful at it? And
Right.
I remember consulting with a lot of LCSW-Cs when I first graduated, and a lot of them kind of weren't as supportive of private practice, of going in straight out of grad school. And now I can understand, because it takes years of experience and then also researching the business side of it, because you don't have those skills or that information provided to you. So, like I
Mhm.
said, it took a lot of planning, and it's still ongoing learning and ongoing maintenance of me learning as a business owner, and kind of putting a separation between myself as the clinician and then also myself as the biller and the administrative assistant, as well as the business owner.
Wow. Did you work with a consultant? Because I know I've come across a lot of private practice consultants and coaches and even mentors that are working with people and starting their own private practice and also being a social work entrepreneur. And I know last week we spoke with Monica Thomas, and then Michelle Scott is another great consultant. So did you work with anyone one on one, or it was just solely you? Um, Going full force, working on it yourself?
So I didn't have the opportunity to speak with a consultant. So partially it was because of financial reasons. I was thinking, like, okay, I'm not sure how this private practice is going to work because of the business side of things. So I decided, you know what, I want to have a low overhead with starting
Mhm.
out, because I'm just not sure. And I was uncertain as to if I was going to be able to be successful and maintain it. So I took the route of Google, and I did a lot of research, countless hours of research. And it kind of took me from one site to another site. And then when I learned another term in business, I researched that. And then I looked up taxing information. So it definitely took a few hours. And then on top of that, I collaborated with my fellow social workers who I
Mhm.
had, significant relationships with. So I called on social workers from grad school that I maintain relationships with. And I even spoke to a few friends of mine who are social workers. So I definitely called on some of the clinicians that I had relations with at the time. And I knew they were in private practice. And I also knew that they were interested in the business side of social work too. So I used those connections on top of the research hours of it, and exploring exactly how do I get started. So I think it's amazing that there are consultants out there, because you would save time. And in the end, you probably would save money using those resources.
Yes, I know for YouTube in particular, if you just search social work entrepreneurship or even private practice and social work, you will get tons of video shorts and full length videos with helpful information on how to start your own private practice. So I totally get that, finances may cause you not to have a one on one consultant, but there's still some information out there that can still help guide you as well. But I loved how you touched on networking and how you called on your fellow social workers and your friends in private practice. Can you speak to the importance of building those relationships, not only while you're in grad school, but after all of the coursework is done?
Yeah, so I still have a great relationship with my field instructors, and I had the opportunity to intern with Baltimore City Public Schools, as well as Shepherd's Clinic, which is a free clinic for low income families. And I still have connections with my field instructors. In fact, when I was graduating from Maryland, they sent me information about job opportunities. They also mentioned my name in rooms that I was never in at the time. So I think it's important to treat your field placement like it's your actual job, and to show up and be ready to work and go above and beyond. Because even now, if an opportunity presents itself, they're still calling on me, they're still emailing me, checking in on me, and I'm doing the same. And then once I was at the point of graduation, I also started networking. So I would go to social work happy hours that Maryland was having. And I was able to give out business cards. I also spoke on panels that Maryland was having in the spring to connect with, graduating social workers as well. I think it's important to have those connections because you never know, who might mention you and, offer you an opportunity that you probably weren't even considering. So I take full advantage of building relationships even now. I think sometimes with private practice, it can get lonely if you're the only clinician or if you're doing all the roles. So I really
Right.
think it's even bigger to network with social workers, even whether it's on social media, you're connecting, or just putting it out there through word of mouth that you're interested in building more of your support system in the field.
So true. So I know as social workers, sometimes we're always in tune with helping others, but sometimes we aren't pouring back into ourselves. So
Mm.
I know you are an expert in self-care and wellness. So tell me about different ways in which helping professionals can start their own self-care journey in addition to helping others.
I think by acknowledging that it's necessary, that it's not optional to take care of yourself. And when I think of self care, I think about, okay, what do I need? And when I wake up in the morning, I assess that. So before I grab my phone and check my emails, before I, check in with my spouse, I am first to check in with myself. And I'll do a body scan as well as a mental scan of what are my needs. Is it something that I'm requiring of myself today? And I think the best thing for me is recognizing through trial and error what works for me. Being in the health and profession, it's pretty much mandatory, I would think self care is, because we're busy being of service to others. And sometimes we can get into a place of burnout or even neglect. So I think it's important to practice self care definitely. So when I wake up in the morning, I tend to create a moment of stillness for myself. So that means that I'm sitting there quietly. And as I'm sitting there, I may start stretching just to get my body warmed up for the day. I think sometimes when people get up, they just jump right out the bed, or they, reach over and they grab their phones and they start scrolling through Instagram or checking their emails. And you got to think about, like, what does that do for your mental? What does that do for your body? So I think it's important to start stretching. I'll also have a glass of water or something. And then I kind of start my day from there. But I think it's important to acknowledge that you have to assess what do you need before you offer someone else something that they need.
Wow, that is so true. I'm going to try that as well. All right.
Try, I would say, before you start your day, just kind of have some moments of stillness. And it could be a spiritual place for you, or a spiritual requirement where it's like, you know what, I need to check in with myself to see if prayer is needed, to see if moving my body today is needed, or whatever the case may be. I know at the end of the week, I even try to acknowledge my major and minor victories. To me, that's a part of self care, because I think sometimes we can get in our head, and focus on all the things that are going wrong or some of the errors that we have made throughout the week. So I even try to focus on that. What victories do I have? What things I'm grateful for? And that's kind of how I like to start and end my day as well as my week.
That is so true. And we were talking before the interview about like, get sharing our praise reports. And I know for me, I've been thinking about like some issues that I've had so far in 2023. But then if I stop and pause and think about all of the other great things that are going on, that outweighs, those challenging moments and the challenging times that might have come up within the past few weeks. So that is so true. And I love how you say, just starting the day in silence and, stretching. I know for me, I've started using this app on my phone called Abide, and it's like kind of a prayer and devotional kind of, but it goes into like mindfulness and meditating. But even before I go to the app, it would be good to just sit in the silence and in the stillness of the moment to start each day. So that is a great point that you made. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem. And it makes me think of the app I use, and I've been using it now for a few years. It's called Insight Timer.
Mm,
And I was introduced to it when I was pregnant. I was having some anxiety around birth. So I decided to look up some meditation information, and it's a meditation app, and you can kind of set it to whatever your mood is or whatever your focus is. So if you want to relax, if you're feeling a little anxious, um, if you are experiencing some test anxiety, you can go and you can select exactly what you're experiencing, and then it'll make recommendations to you. So Insight Timer is another app that I recommend, and I love Alex L. I listen to her a lot on there. She has some great meditation exercises.
wow, love it. So, do you find that self care is easier for you as a mom, or was it easier prior to becoming a mother?
Prior to becoming a mom, definitely. So I actually was struggling with self-care when I first had my daughter because I was just focused on what her needs were at the time. And some days I still struggle with that of, okay, there are certain things that I have to do for myself so I can be available for her. So I definitely struggle with it from time to time. I think with moms, we are geared towards being, serving everyone. So we may focus on our spouse or we may focus on the children, and we tend to neglect ourselves. And sometimes, even as moms, we'll sit there and suffer in silence.
Yeah.
We want to do everything on our own because we feel like, okay, I'm the only one that can feed her a certain way, or I'm the only one that can change her, or what she's going to do if she's not in my presence. So I think sometimes self-care, it goes to the back because we're so focused on being able to take care of the household. So it's
Yeah.
something is of a balance I'm trying to create now, and I'm learning that, what, if laundry's not done, that's okay. If the dishes aren't washed every night, that's okay too. That, my house, we're living in it, we're not necessarily in this perfect home that has to be clean and neat every time. So I think the moments of self-care is something that I'm trying to definitely focus on and improve with being a mom.
Yes, I know for me it's definitely hard being a mom and a single parent at that and trying to practice self-care, but I made a pledge this year that I'm going to do better at practicing self-care for myself and putting myself first. So far we're halfway there. So, you know, just starting out. So yeah, I'm going to get better at that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I mean,
So,
that's to start acknowledging it, that, you know what, I got to take care of myself. So,
yes. Yeah. All right. So, what advice would you give for anyone that may be low on finances or low on a lot of extra time in order for them to promote their wellness?
so I would say if finances are an issue, there are ways around that. I know when I was in grad school, I didn't have any money. And I was working two jobs at the time, and I was like barely making it. So what I would do is I would go to like the Dollar Tree, and that's when everything was a dollar. I think now it's like 125. But I would go to the Dollar Tree and they have like face masks. They have masks for your hands. I think use those things, that you may find at the dollar store that you'll be able to do. So I would go home and I would basically have like a spa day in my house with the face mask, with the scrub, being able to soak in a tub. So that's an option. And then also, when I was in school, I also like looked up events that were free and they had free food on campus. So that kind of helped too with being able to network and still get fed. So I think if finances are pretty low, there are still things that you can do. And even when the weather's nice, going outside and walking or going for a jog, and it could be a mindful walk. So it could be a walk where you're focusing on your breathing, or even if you're listening to a certain playlist. That's something that I'm big on too, is creating playlists for different seasons of your life, or even different moods. So you have a playlist for working out. I know when I was pregnant, I even created a laboring playlist, something that music I wanted to listen to when I was experiencing labor. So that's even something that you can do, is allow music to help support your wellness. So that's a possibility as well.
Wow. And I love how you mentioned that because even in our upcoming book, we have a music playlist. So, and we, as the co authors, we found that music definitely helped to guide us throughout our inspirations and even our challenges in the profession. So that's pretty dope.
Mhm.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned before, you are one of the co-authors of It Takes a Village. So, would you like to share about your reason for joining the book collaboration and what you hope that the book will bring to helping professionals?
Definitely. So when I heard about the opportunity, and my good friend from grad school, who's also a social worker, Miss Brittany White,
Yes.
told me about the opportunity, which is it's strange to me how it came about, because I was praying about becoming an author, and it was something that was like sitting in my spirit. And I really didn't talk about it with anybody. So when Brittany sent the opportunity, I had to share with her. I was like, you know what? I've been feeling like I'm being called to go in that direction. So I take it as that's God's way of telling me this is what you need to do. So I need you to move towards it. And when I read about the information regarding the book, I was blown away because I never heard of a book that brought together social workers from different walks of life in different settings, sharing their stories of grief and of loss, and of, talking about their triumphs in the field, and being able to share so much information. And it takes a village. It's going to be life changing. I think it's going to be career changing, because we touch on school social work, we touch on working with different agencies in private practice, we touch on wellness, and how do you maintain in a field when there's so many challenges at times. We also touch on entrepreneurship and what that looks like, in carving out new paths in social work. So it was an exciting concept to me. And I knew that I wanted to be a part of it from the moment that Brittany White talked about it, because, like I said, I think it's going to change the field and how people do social work. Unfortunately, it's still like that stigma tied to it, that when people think of social workers, it's like, why would you want to do that? They take people babies, and people just
Right.
automatically think of CPS. So even now, I find myself having to explain what my role is as a social worker, and how I, contribute to the field. And I think that with this book, it helps with those gray areas, and for people to see clinicians and people in a helping profession, it reminds them that we're human too. So while we're in spaces healing others and showing up, we also are in places where we need to be healed too. Like, I'm thinking of the pandemic. A lot of us worked during the pandemic. A lot of us were on the front lines providing therapy and providing support. And I don't know if social workers were acknowledged during that time.
No.
And a
That's
lot of us were experiencing loss and still showing up to work daily, because we also are essential.
yes. So I love how you mentioned that you wanted to start the journey of becoming an author, and when the collaboration presented itself, you saw that as a green light and like an aha moment. And I feel that a lot of us aren't aware that yes, you can still be a social worker, therapist, but you can still shift into different aspects and avenues, such as becoming an author. And I know as a social worker, being an author is a great way to expand on your expertise. So if you're into like clinical practice and you are fond of like CBT therapy or motivational interviewing, you can be seen as an expert in that area. You can write a workbook or a journal or even a novel about that aspect in that area in your profession. And I feel like a lot of us aren't aware of that as of yet,
No.
but more of us are coming into that though.
Yes, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And I think that book will highlight the fact that you don't necessarily have to always work for an agency, which is nothing wrong. But you
Mhm.
can carve out different paths for yourself. Some things that may not even be popular at the moment, but it's something that you can do. I see a lot of social workers doing content now on social media, and I love it because it shows that we're here. This is what our day looks like, and then we also, like I said earlier, we're human, that we too, have certain needs, and can be funny and playful. I think sometimes people view clinicians as like very stiff individuals. And it's like we also love to have a good time as well. So I think this book will show light on the fact that social workers is a diverse field.
Yes, and I want to encourage you to keep writing because I know within our book alone, you shared some powerful moments in your life, and so you dropped some amazing gems as well. So, keep writing, keep publishing. Even your self care practice alone, that's a great mindfulness coloring book, workbook, journal, anything that you want it to be, it can definitely be. And I want to encourage you to continue to share your story and, share stories about inspiring other people in different ways.
Thank you. I received that because sometimes you get nervous when you're starting something new, and
Yeah.
you're not sure how others are going to receive it, and you get in your head about it, and you can talk yourself out of the gifts that you have and not share them with the world. So thank you so much. I do appreciate that encouragement.
You're welcome. I like to go live by the mantra. I saw a meme one time and it's like, your vision wasn't a conference call.
Mm,
And I feel like we have to get out of that imposter syndrome and realize that if that vision was given to you, it's your duty to share it, and that we can't let others' opinions or thoughts or feedback deter us from what we see as that vision. And as long as you're giving back to like the greater good, it's purposeful, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, yes,
Because
I
you're
agree.
always going to have a naysayer, but you can't let them, you fuel your thoughts and things of that nature. So there's always going to be somebody with something to say.
Yes,
Just do you. Yeah.
yes.
So can you give me a word that describes your career thus far?
A word that describes my career. What just came to mind was alignment. Um,
Mm,
Even with being nervous about certain opportunities, and I think you said it, that imposter syndrome, it's almost like, you know, I'm not the expert, or, it's too soon for me to get this opportunity, or why me? Sometimes I tend to struggle with that. And I have to remind myself that this is all aligned with the reasons why I went to school and majored in this profession, as well as some of the career choices that I've made to be
mm,
able to be of service of people. So I think about alignment, that I want to be able to do whatever God has for me to do with sharing my gifts. And I want to stay aligned with what He has, and also what my values and beliefs are when it comes to working in different settings. So alignment, I would say.
great. And I know we mentioned our love for music earlier. So what song helps you get through like any trying times that you may have, or even when you're practicing your self-care? Like, what's your number one go-to song?
Ah, So I don't know if I have like one song in particular, but I love Sade. I love Erykah Badu and Jill Scott and Snow Allegra. So I have them like on this playlist, and I know if I hit that playlist, it's gonna put me in a really good mood. It's gonna make sure I'm in a good place once I finish out a few songs. So I would say there's some of the people I really enjoy listening to, and I even added a few of the songs to the book playlist that we're creating, that kind of helps. So I would say those artists, definitely Jill Scott too.
Wonderful. All right. And do you have anything in the works in the future for your private practice? Any new projects you're working on or anything that you love to share with us?
Yeah, so I said this year, I'm going to manifest more writing opportunities because I have so many ideas and so many things that I want to be able to share for the world. So I am already speaking that I'm available for some speaking engagements as well as some
Yeah.
events that are centered around Black women, where Black women can be vulnerable, they can be supported and experience healing. So again, I want to be aligned with whatever God has for me. So currently, I am available for, of course, individual therapy. I also am in a place where I'm able to hire clinicians for my private practice. So I would love to be at a place where I can have a group practice and support incoming social workers that are coming into the field of private practice. I'm also available for individual supervision with licensed master social workers. I'm available for coaching as well as consulting when it comes to entering into the private practice for social workers that are unsure, may have questions, uncertain on where to start or what the process look like. So I'm available for consulting, coaching, individual therapy, as well as collaboration. So I'm looking forward to all those opportunities.
Love it. And how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on Instagram at Sarita underscore LCSW-C, or you can find me on Psychology Today as well as Therapy for Black Girls under Sarita Ford.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you for joining me this evening. I wish you much success, and I'm excited for our book to be released soon. And
Yes,
thank
thank
you
you for
for,
having me.
you're welcome. And thank you for all that you're doing for the social work career field and all the attributes that you're adding to the wellness community.
Thank you so much. It's been fun. I'm happy to be here today. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. All right, so you can follow Sarita Ford on Instagram, and you can also visit her Linktree website that is shown on our screen. And we will be back next week sharing wellness collectively. Thank you.